Hello, and welcome to ME Web3. Today we have a very interesting guest with us. This is Salama Belghali, and she is an expert on the subject matter of crypto. By training, she has studied, as I know, math and computer science, and she's been working in the financial industry and in the crypto industry for a very long time. So we're delighted to have her here. What you also need to know is she's a founder of Women in Web3, which is an amazing organization, and they have a lot of events. So please feel free to follow her. Salama, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mark. Happy to be here today with you.
Excellent. So I'm looking forward to the conversation, which will be led in the questions by Anya and Luigi, who are with me on the team today. And with that, I think let's just get started.
Cool.
So, very warm welcome, Salama. So, our first question would be, could you please share with us how did you get into the Web3 world in the field?
Yeah, well, my very first contact with, let's say, crypto, actually, in particular, Bitcoin, was in 2016. I used to be working for a bank, and I was involved in the structuring of the very first certificate ever issued on Bitcoin by a bank. Worldwide. So that was a big honor. And I remember I had absolutely no idea about Bitcoin. So I was just discovering the world of wallets and the secure keeping of Bitcoin, and I found it fascinating. And since then, I've been in the rabbit hole. So the rest is history.
Basically, you've seen all the trends of the crypto space, I imagine. But I'm curious to see how you've seen the landscape of the crypto industry evolve over the years, but especially now in 2023, considering the last events, Luna Crush, FTX Crush, that have been pretty big in the space.
Yeah, I mean, like we're now really far away from. I mean, some people say in crypto, 1 year is equivalent to 7 years, like a bit like the life of the dogs, I hear. But look, we've been coming a very long way. I mean, the first thing I can mention is about the increased adoption of cryptocurrencies in general, like Bitcoin. And now Bitcoin has gained widespread recognition, and it's now accepted as a legitimate form of digital currency. When you see major companies like MicroStrategy, PayPal, and Tesla who are accepting cryptocurrencies or having a big chunk of it on their balance sheets, that's a pretty big statement. I don't know if you've seen this week, Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy has now a Bitcoin investment, which is worth in unrealized profits 2.3 billion. For instance, Tesla has been accepting Bitcoin first, and now is Dogecoin, of course, the baby coin of Tesla, and PayPal also, which is enabling the transfer of cryptocurrencies between PayPal and other exchanges. The other thing, which is pretty a big statement, is the institutional involvement. So it's funny to see all these traditional financial institutions who have been saying that Bitcoin was a scam, now lining up in front of the door of the SEC to get a license to issue an ETF, a Bitcoin spot ETF. And you've got the likes of BlackRock and Wisdom Tree and VanEck. So yeah, that's a lot of things which have been happening over the years. Now you also seen that the regulatory environment has been growing a lot. We see MiCA entering into force in Europe in June this year. We see big discussions going on. Of course, the spotlight right now is on Bitcoin spot ETF, but there are other things. For instance, if we consider cryptocurrencies as securities, this is going to be a very big and important question, because if it is the case, then cryptocurrencies will be falling under the jurisdiction of securities law and regulations, which means that or whatever is protecting the investors will be applying. This might make it really hard for the crypto community to keep on innovating and all the registration processes, etc. Another aspect which has been developed is the DeFi, so the decentralized finance. So you've got so many possibilities for investors, like lending and borrowing and trading without the need for intermediaries. And that's kind of scary for the established trade field, right? And you can also understand why they kind of like scared, or the pushback that they show, at least on the media, against cryptocurrencies. Stable coins as well. So I mean, stable coins have been really changing the dynamics. I mean, think of a country like Turkey, where their currency is struggling with inflation, and now you have like people who can make their savings in USDT, or you call it Tether, and whereas and they can sleep a little bit better than having their investments or their savings in Turkish lira, which is losing value almost every day. And the NFTs. I mean, of course, the whole NFT craze started with the crypto kitties. Then we saw all the punks and the apes and you name it. Today, NFTs are actually being considered by the real economy. I mean, you have NFTs being used by Web3 companies within their loyalty programs, for example. You start to see digitals, etc. I'm gonna stop here because it's a it's an ocean. Yeah,
we could talk a lot about it, and it's amazing to see that in that short period of time so many things have happened. But speaking about you, what do you think, in your opinion, what's the most exciting and promising trend in crypto?
It's very hard to pick one. I think right now, one of the most important trends that we are seeing is probably the whole developments around interoperability, cross-chain interoperability. I mean, when the whole blockchain story started, you've got like, of course, it started with Bitcoin, then Ethereum came, then you had other layers which has been developed, which were trying to solve for the usual trilemma in blockchain. Some decided to focus on security, some others on scalability, etc. And then now you have all these silos, so these blockchains, but it's very difficult to connect between them. And then there've been some trials for some solutions, so incorporating some bridges, but it didn't really work out very well. And then you keep on hearing of stories of hacks, and that's mainly because of the weakness of these bridges. And now I think what is going to be really a game changer is that company who's going to manage to enable this interoperability in a complete safe way, but also in a way that is scalable. At the end, you have to think, you as a user, you should be like having just like a very simple interface on your mobile. Let's say you wanna hail a cab, or you wanna shop something. You shouldn't really care what type of chain is running behind you. You shouldn't care about if you send your money to the wrong wallet, you never recover it back again, etc., etc. So this is, I think, the most exciting thing which is being developed right now.
Maybe just to tag on to that, because I think you mentioned a couple of very interesting aspects in there. One is actually the technology, the foundational technology, which is constantly evolving, and interoperability is one key aspect in there. The other part you mentioned is the regulatory framework. We briefly touched on Mika earlier, in terms of the regulatory framework is actually moving at different speeds in different continents. is it a security or not, for instance, is one of the topics. So I think we have that kind of conversation, but it all boils down to what you said nicely, the user experience, actually. And I think that's one of the biggest, really unsolved issues of smooth user experience. And we know that there's been attempts now, even with crypto phones, which is an interesting aspect. But truth is, even famous people like Mark Cuban have been scammed out of crypto, and they're tech billionaires because they didn't know how to use it and they were easily scammed. And that's one of the issues I see in terms of usability, which I think, as you said correctly, the company which solves that and makes that experience as smooth as possible will benefit tremendously and will help the whole industry, because the whole industry is a little bit hamstrung by the fact that usability is not what we're used to in other platforms. It's not this iPhone kind of usability we have.
Yeah, totally. And I think there are really projects which are doing an amazing job on that. I mean, I don't want to mention the names on this call, not that it's taken as a financial advice or anything, but there are really some projects which are doing a great job, and it's just a question of time, and it's actually gonna come much faster or much earlier than we all think.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. I think it's just matter, yeah, it's literally matter of time until the adoption will be mainstream. And speaking of, yeah, mainstream and something you guys said before, the MiCA regulation, how do you perceive this regulatory developments, specifically MiCA, will be influencing the overall crypto industry positively and negatively in relation to the European market at the end?
I mean, I think MiCA is, in general, I think Europe is doing an amazing job. I don't think there is any region or any country which is doing as well as Europe in that sense of bringing clarity. So there is MiCA. What MiCA is bringing is probably increased investor protection, because we had the 15 years wild ride with crypto, and we've seen how many people got scammed or how many hacks, and that's cost billions of dollars to everyone. So I think the regulatory development of MiCA is bringing this necessary investor protection, so to make the space safe for everyone and to bring this trust and confidence into the crypto industry that is not perceived as a cowboy place, but it gives it more credibility. And this is actually a positive point, because this is also going to have a very positive consequence, bringing in more institutional investors, and also traditional financial institutions would be more willing to participate in this evolution. A natural second consequence of the MiCA is bringing market stability, because if you say regulation, you also say increased market stability. So you have clear rules and guidelines, and you have much less market manipulation and fraud and illicit activities. So that's definitely a plus. Also standardization. As MiCA is really also in the context of Europe, where the regulations are like the first rules. When it just started, you had a very big fragmentation between the different regions and countries. So now there is much more standardization, and this is really going to enhance the adoption. And yeah, so that's a bit like on the positive side. On the negative sides, of course, many people are not really fan. I mean, many people from the crypto community are not really fan of regulation, because they have the feeling that that could cut a little bit on the innovation side. So it's all about balance, right? So if there is overregulation, then there is the risk of stifling the innovation and growth. within the crypto industry. That's one thing. Then you have also the compliance costs. If it's too much regulation, then you won't have the smaller startups thriving anymore. Then you basically there is like a natural selection, and only the big ones, the wealthy ones, can go in. Um, um, and and also privacy, because at the end we shouldn't forget that the whole idea of Bitcoin initially and crypto in general is about bringing back bringing transparency, but also protecting the data privacy. And if there is regulation, that means all these AML, KYC, etc., and we're going to be losing a little bit on the data privacy side. Does that answer your question, Dan?
Yeah, I think Mark
I think
wants something about
yeah,
the
I think it's a very good summary in terms of where we stand, and picking up on especially on the privacy side, that's definitely sort of counterintuitive in saying we're looking at crypto, we're looking at blockchains, and then we're looking at regulation, which is a central project typically. However, and I think that's how you laid it out nicely, we're looking at regulation for the benefit of the industry, actually. And I compare it to the financial industry. I compare it to the healthcare industry. There needs to be established standards, not because we want standards, but because we want to protect consumers. And likewise, for the crypto industry, I think we're getting out of the infancy into maturity phase, and the maturity phase comes with higher responsibility. And yes, that will be coming at a cost. There will be regulatory frameworks which you need to adhere to, and that might price some of the startups out of that because they cannot afford that. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to get out of this Wild West mentality, which I hope that we have that behind us. And I think we need that for the trust long term. And I'm actually hopeful if you look at the crypto evolution this year, it's been a bit very bumpy ride, but ultimately upward. But ultimately, I think the ride can go a lot, it can be taken a lot further if more people regain trust and it becomes more established. And for that, we need to embrace those standards. And surprisingly, I think Europe is leading. Surprisingly, I'm like, wow, when has that happened in tech? Like never. So I think this is sort of the moment, and I think we should all celebrate this that Europe is taking a responsible, but at the same time also innovation open approach. And I'm very optimistic about the future.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And as you say, I was also very, very much surprised when I saw Mika, and I couldn't believe my ears, my eyes. Like, is that really happening? And it's one of the very first, or yeah, a few times where Europe managed to have a consensus and agree on one thing, which is extremely innovative. I mean, super well done, kudos. While the Americans are still struggling with Gary Gensler about the classification of securities and of a complete let's say, lack of clarity about things, and all these trials, which are completely somehow very strange how people are being. I mean, like Binance getting a 4 billion fine. Wow. I mean, like, wow. I mean, that's okay. We understand they would like to warn the others, but like 4 billion, that's pretty insane, and it kind of like gives like the wrong message, right? So yeah, we're in a very good place in Europe, definitely.
And I
up,
think
up,
long term, the US will be paying the price for that because many companies investing in crypto will just avoid the US because of this uncertainty. And this uncertainty will continue likely for the next couple of years. And those will most likely be the crucial years of crypto taking off. And surprisingly, the US will most likely not be benefiting in that.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know where you guys are based. I'm based in Switzerland, and we like it. because we have all these companies coming here and opening their their foundations in the crypto valley. So that's perfect. You know, they can keep on discussing about classifying cryptocurrencies as securities or not. I mean, 21 Shares has, I think, the highest volume in terms of ETPs, and that's a Swiss company worldwide. So it's cool.
Absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree. Let's move on to the next question.
Previously, you mentioned very important points that regulation will slow down innovation in crypto and Web3 industry. How do you see that how
Innovation?
regulation affecting the current innovations?
Not really. I mean, to be honest, so far it's still pretty flexible environment, and we're not there yet. I mean, now Mika came into force in last summer. I don't feel like anybody is affected on the level of innovation because of Mika. But it's baby steps, right? I mean, I think there might be things coming, so that's the warning, right? It's like, guys, okay, it's great that you're regulating this space, but don't overregulate it. But I don't really feel like there is any negative impact right now. I mean, in the US, it's a different story, and I think the companies learned how to make their way around the problem. So if the US starts to become too I mean, if Gary Gensler starts to be too demanding or like creating too much trouble, then you know, like exchanges like Coinbase, they would just like or Bittrex, they just shut down the operations and they go somewhere else, right? So that's kind of yeah. There are alternatives. So and that's the thing. So the jurisdictions which would understand the value and the power of you know, a regulation which is going in the sense of innovation are going to be winning. And one jurisdiction which kind of like also kind of trying to position themselves is Dubai or the Arab Emirates. I mean, they've been so far very, I mean, they gave a very strong message that they're welcoming innovation. I'm not sure how many projects are actually being developed there, but there is at least a willingness to show the world that they are welcoming whatever development is being made on the side of Web3.
It's interesting you're mentioning the Middle East, because I totally see that happen, that they're very welcoming, and it's to be seen what the effect will be in a certain way. But I think from a regulatory standpoint, what we're seeing is sort of like, I call it like the financial infrastructure, which is being rolled out. And we have this framework in Europe, especially, and that will benefit because innovation will be built on top of it. It's similar to whether we're living in a democratic country or not. If we have openness towards crypto, we will benefit because companies are willing to invest in the topic, and people as well. And I don't think that that is being embraced in other countries, in other territories, and therefore I think we're in a good path. Let's see what happens in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic, to be very honest with you. I think I feel like now that the institutional investors are getting in, things are going to be going much faster. I mean, look at just how the development of the Bitcoin spot ETF went. As soon as BlackRock stepped in, I mean, the level of the conversation, the quality of the conversation is completely different. And I think we are just at the start. There is so much more to be developed. And I think also the Web2, or let's say the traditional world, starts to see the use cases for the real economy. They start to see how much money they can save. I mean, I can mention one of the projects which is running right now, which is the Onyx project from JP Morgan, and it's about saving. So it's about making payments, and it's unbelievable. They managed to save like 3,000 operations in one click or couple of clicks. And okay, so this is the technological side. But when you think how much they're saving up to 20% on the costs. So now we're talking. So that's like millions and billions to be saved going forward if you think of the whole financial industry adopting these technologies. So I think the conversation is going to start taking a new turn. I mean, so far, like it's been okay. Crypto, yes or no. So now we know Bitcoin is here to stay, crypto is here to stay. Fine. If even governments are considering CBDCs, okay, CBDCs are not really crypto, but let's say if the governments are even starting to consider their digital money, then we're starting to take this seriously now. And then on the other side, it's the blockchain technology being incorporated into the real economy. And I like a couple of years ago, I still remember like managers of big organizations saying, like, oh, I don't really see the added value of blockchain. It's just an added layer of cost, etc. It just reminds me the times when people were saying, so what can you really do with the internet, right? Like when, like until 95, even like 97. So yes, I think we're there. We're around 98 in terms of the .com time, right? And in terms of taking the technology seriously.
I hope we'll not see another bubble burst like in 2001. But
Yeah,
I think
Yeah, but that's
maybe interesting point, because mentioning the likes of Jamie and JP Morgan or BlackRock, which is important because in a certain way they're the trailblazers who have been holding back on the whole topic for a long time, and them going, I wouldn't say all in maybe, but them making a very strong point in favor is actually going to shift a lot of sentiment in a positive direction. Because if they believe, they're the largest asset managers, if they believe, that will have an impact for sure. I would argue that the central banks are doing it for a different reason, but that's probably too long of a conversation to have. But let's just say that the sentiment has shifted radically in a positive sense, and with further trust gained and new innovation coming out in the next couple of years, I think we'll see dramatic uptick in adoption rates. Probably more than we expect, and maybe even faster than internet in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, one particular topic which is pretty obvious is real world assets. Everybody now is talking about RWAs. And I remember, like, until 2 years ago, like nobody really could understand the value of tokenization of real world assets. And today, it's all about that. Like wherever you go, it's all about tokenization of real world assets. Like Avalanche just mentioned, they're like focusing on that now. Polygon the same. You've got managers of big institutional investors or organizations saying that everything is going to be tokenized. We're going to be tokenized as well. You see in the luxury or like fashion world for the digitals, right? Like Zara just made a series of T-shirts together with a partner where you have like the T-shirts with an NFT, Nike the same, Louis Vuitton the same. And I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that coming into play. And when you consider, I mean, maybe it's a little bit too early for the metaverse, but you need also to consider the connection with other immersive experiences like the metaverse, etc. So yeah, it's a lot being built, and I feel like the Web2 or traditional world starts to understand the value. I mean, take the example of a Rolex, for example. Like if you buy a Rolex, then you get it with a certificate, a paper. How archaic is that? And you need to keep that paper. Like if you lose it, your Rolex is worth nothing, basically. If you want to sell it again or give it away to someone, who can prove you that it's the real one? So that piece of paper is extremely important. How about making an NFT out of that? I mean, if you wanted that piece of paper, like put it in a frame and put it in your living room or whatever, you can still do that, but it would be great. I mean, there is a real value for that paper as an NFT, and it's immutable. and you own it, and then it's transferable, etc. So this is just one example where the tokenization of real assets is going to kick in.
Well, I think we touched so many topics as of today, between the MiCAR, that it will not stop the innovation, especially in the European space, as well as the mainstream adoption that is coming along more and more. And I think is a time to wrap it up because it's already been so long. We've been chatting. Would you, Mark, would like to add a few more thoughts to the end of our
Sure.
chat?
I mean, so first of all, thanks a lot, Salama. It was very interesting having the conversation with you, and thanks for sharing your insights. And as mentioned just by Luigi, the whole topic of regulation is actually positive for Europe. I think that's one of the things we can confirm today. It's actually not making Europe less competitive. To the contrary, it's probably going to make Europe a lot more competitive in the years to come. Also, we see that in the next months and years, most likely we'll have winning not just applications, but also user experiences evolved, which will further accelerate the adoption rate across the general population and also companies. It's for both. If you mentioned the tokenization of things, that's more also for the customers. If you're looking at the currencies and CBDCs, etc., then it's more for countries and companies. So we're having a lot of development going on there. And it then led us into the topic of Web3 and metaverse, which is, for that, it is actually like foundational technology, which is almost a requirement to create all those digital twins and prove ownership, etc. So in many ways, we're seeing the internet in the early stages evolve into the next big thing. And if you want to be part of it, follow people like Salama. And with that, I'd like to say thanks for watching this episode, and have a good day. This was You, Me, Web3. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
And yeah, Luigi, thank you.
Bye.